Hey everyone, welcome back to the HeelCast. I'm Impact Dude, and this week I am joined by none other than the Full Killer himself, FK9. How you feeling, bud?
I'm okay. It's been a little while, a couple of months where the schedules weren't working out, so I've been off the show for a little bit. Was kind of concerned that the schedule wouldn't work out this week either, but when I saw the news about a certain someone leaving the company, I couldn't very well sit this one out.
I had a feeling that you would want to join for this one, and I have a feeling that I am probably the perfect person to be on for you for that certain someone parting ways with Impact Wrestling this week. Because we've been round and round on this, and I eventually decided that there's no doubt about it. You are correct, and I was wrong. And I have admitted that before, but sooner or later everybody's got to go. So you were going to get the last laugh anyway, but it looks like tonight we're going to be laughing together.
I'm looking forward to it.
Laugh with a lot of other folks as well. All right, before we get into the show, got to do our plugs. Obviously, everybody check out ImpactAsylum.net, the #1 fan site for Impact Wrestling. Of course, always check out FK9's podcast. You can find that on ImpactAsylum.net. You can also find it on YouTube. Our good buddy Robert Does Wrestling, Andre Corbeil, the one-of-a-kind Elite Podcast. These guys are fantastic. BQ has rebranded himself. He's now the Impact Lounge Podcast. Make sure to check out our good friend BQ. And, of course, the Wrestling Perspective Podcast featuring a good friend of the show, Petey Williams, the Canadian Destroyer. So there is a lot of news to cover this week, FK9. But let's start with some good news first. Impact has finally done it. They've hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And Impact Asylum's own Kyle Ronan took home the honors.
Yeah. That's a big milestone. I know they've been hyping that one up for a while. They sent out like graphics celebrating when they hit like 900,000 or something. And then maybe it was something like every 10,000 there was another one. It's like counting down to 1 million. So it's nice to see them hit that one. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I got to tell you, too, I think that Kyle totally trolled them. He was posting, and they were getting down to 100, 200, 300, the whole way down. And he's posting the number, and then he's like, look, I'm number 1 million. So it meant a lot to Kyle to be number 1 million. But, I might not have been number 1 million, but gosh darn it, I'm in there. And I know you are as well, FK9.
Yeah.
We got more good news. I understand that the Bound for Glory floor seats have been sold out. This is great news.
Yeah, they're actually going outside the impact zone for this one, going to Canada, which is always nice. Great crowds up there, and they so rarely leave the impact zone these days. So to see the seats for the Bound for Glory show selling well, that's very encouraging. I've heard a lot of mixed things about the ticket sales for the subsequent TV tapings up there. Not sure what the situation with that is, but at least we can probably expect a decent crowd for Bound for Glory at least. That's nice.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's got to be hard to sell. What are they doing? 5 nights total, or is it 6?
Wow, I don't know. I think 5.
It's a lot.
Well, yeah, it's a lot either way.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether it's 5 or 6. It's a lot. And to try to sell that out in a market, let's face it, Ottawa is not exactly New York City, right? It's not exactly LA or Chicago. So it is a smaller market, but that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for them to get them all sold. But hey, you know what? BFG is at least proving that they can sustain shows up there, and they just need to find out a way to get away from these marathon tapings and go on. Now FK9, this brings us to what I think you're going to say is the best news of the week.
Well, hang on.
I think we have to let you break this news. I think we have to let this come from you.
Hold on, we need a drum roll for this.
That's right.
Robbie E. has left the company.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Dong. has left the building. So, FK9, I understand you're going to miss him terribly badly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was making a fortune off that toilet paper with his face on it. Maybe, how am I going to make money now? I'm going to have to rebrand myself. I suppose I could put Grado's face on it, but it just won't be the same.
It won't be. We haven't seen him on TV, and honestly, does it go all the way back to the World Title Series since we last saw him?
I think since Anthem took over.
For sure.
It's pretty funny. They sent him to Japan, and they just left him there.
Well, they did the same thing to Bram too. Although Bram, he kind of froze himself over while he was there.
He kind of got himself in trouble.
Just a wee little bit.
Yeah, that I wouldn't blame him for that one though. That one seemed kind of I don't know. That one seemed kind of a little bit of BS to me. Like I wouldn't have gotten him in trouble for that. I mean, what did he do? Like, what, he sat in something in a freezer or something? Come on.
Yeah,
cut him some slack on that one.
Freezers, and I think he kind of like dove in and laid in it. What I don't know is how that affects the culture over there versus over here. I mean, where I live, people do that all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know what the difference is with the culture. But I can only imagine that if Noah said, "Hey, you got to do something about this," that they felt compelled to deal with what the partner said.
Mm-hmm.
That having been said, I've never actually been over to Japan. I don't know if people hang out in the freezer or not. What I do know is there's rumors of more departures to be coming very soon. Any ideas as to who you think that might be?
Well, you could probably make some educated guesses, judging by who's been on TV and who isn't. I think certain people are probably safe. Maybe Alicia Edwards could be safe just because they don't want to burn their bridge with Eddie Edwards. But other people, I don't know, like a Marche Rocket, for example, would probably be a little concerned. I don't have the roster page in front of me, but anyone who hasn't been on TV for a while might be reading the writing on the wall right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see names like Bram and Kingston in there.
Yeah, I don't think they have any plans for Kingston at all.
I don't. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it. I mean, I would be a little concerned for Falaball and Mario Baccara, although I'll say that they are kind of like one of those tag teams that you just bring in. They lose a match every now and again. As long as you're paying them, on a per diem basis, who cares? And same thing with Alicia too. As long as she's on a PPA, I don't know why they have to get rid of her. Just don't use her if you don't want her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Girls like Amber Nova. She's being used a little bits here and there. So hopefully they don't do too much to Knockouts division. They got some decent gals in there now. It's kind of exciting.
When you think about like the top 6 girls plus others that are on TV right now just not wrestling that much, plus the 4 that got sitting in the back waiting to be used. I mean, this is probably the strongest the Knockout roster has been in a while. So it would kind of suck to lose any of them.
I mean, let's face it. We get good matches out of these Knockouts week in and week out. We have enough of them that are good that we're getting good wrestling, and that's something that can be kind of difficult with some of these girls.
I don't think there's a bad worker in the bunch unless you count like the ones that are really green still. So the wrestling quality is not really the problem with the Knockouts right now. It's just the fact that they don't really get a lot of attention from creative, don't really get a lot of screen time. So that's tough to work with. But what we get from them is usually like really high quality.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you've got Alicia, who might be one of the more green ones, but she was still pretty good in a little bit that we have gotten to see her. Allie's, of course, gold. Ava's story. I like her. I think we all just think that she's just great because she just comes off as being so sweet. But there's a little bit of room for growth there. Diamante, we have seen very little of her. Obviously, Gail's Gill. LVN has been on fire since she got there. We haven't seen a whole lot of MJ Jenkins, so maybe she's falling into that bottom group a little bit. And then you're talking about Rosemary, Sienna, Taya. I mean, those 3 alone could just main event constantly. And let's not forget Allie and Gail. So Definitely some good things going on in the Knockouts division, and hopefully they're even able to grow that division a little bit as opposed to contract it. I don't think there's a whole lot more room TV time to bring in too many more big names, but cycling in and out some talent, to basically add to it would be fantastic. Now,
Well, it's tough to make screen time for the knockouts when you're devoting so much to people like American Top Team and anyone you want to bring in from AAA. And you get rid of those people, you'd probably have enough time to feature them more.
you probably do. And, Ken, it's been a while since we talked, so really haven't had a chance to talk about too much of this. But what is your take on some of these partnerships with AAA and Noah? Because to me, I like it. I like the fact that we get to see fresh faces. At the same time, especially with this roster having been turned over, it's so hard to get folks to actually, invest in characters if you can't develop them. And they're kind of getting in the way of developing them.
There's something to be said for this talent exchange idea, just as a concept. But I think I've touched on this on my own show. There has to be a meeting of the minds between these different companies so they can figure out a way to introduce these characters when they send them over to a different company. So the audience will view them as like a star and a character and not just, random person from Noah or random person from AAA. I mean, it wasn't until this past Thursday that I actually started to view those 3 AAA guys as characters that had a reason to be there. Until then, they were just like random AAA guy 1, 2, and 3, as I was calling them. I think the right way to do it is the talent exchange thing that they've done with Crash. And by that I mean, look at Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid. They came in with a purpose. Now we're starting to develop Garza Jr. a little bit more as a character, starting to see more of him. Those two feel like actual members of the roster and not just people who are getting featured by virtue of being Crash talents, So I think they need to start doing that with everyone. Okay, I think, from Noah, they brought in over Marufuji. He worked a couple random matches and then he disappeared. Okay, Not much mileage you can get out of that. With AAA, they had, they're beating up a couple guys. They're having a couple matches. Don't really know what they're doing there. But now we're finally getting them into a storyline of some kind, and now they actually feel like real people. Okay, let's go more in this direction. But I think with Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid, they really got it right. Or at least that's the closest they've gotten to doing it right. So we need to go more in that direction, get away from just, putting these guys into random spots just to get them on the show. But for that to happen, creative has to put in the work, and that's a bit of an issue that I've been having with them because they don't feel like they're putting in a lot of work right now.
I agree with you completely, and I'll tell you, Garza Jr. is pretty impressive. I mean, he doesn't look like it. He looks like he's, pretty bland, but he's got a lot of character, and he's great in the ring, and they need to give him an opportunity to shine, and it looks like, based on what we saw this week, he's probably going to get the opportunity to shine in short order. The one thing that I'll say coming out of all this, FK9, is simply that they need to do a better job at promoting that these guys, like you said, are stars. And a lot of that's just, look at the champions, okay? You got the how to say Global Force Wrestling, the Impact, whatever the heck they're calling it, okay? Global champion, okay, and Eli Drake. You've got the AAA champion, right? Johnny Impact, right? You've also got Phantasma, right? He's the AAA Latin America champion, but they don't really expend a lot of time telling you about that. They've kind of built Johnny Impact up a little bit and said that he had that belt, but let him come out holding the belt. It doesn't have to take away from Impact. We can still make Johnny want the Impact Championship. And then they go down to AAA, they can make, Eli want the AAA championship. But, if these guys are stars and you're bringing them in because they're stars, tell the world.
Yeah, that's another issue I've had. It's like they just throw these guys on TV and expect the fans to know who they are because they're from AAA or they're from Noah. They don't really do the work to introduce them and kind of just say, okay, here's this guy and here's who he's all about. It's like with the AAA guys, they throw Phantasma on TV for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden, hey, here's Pagano, and then before they even tell us who he is, they're bringing in Tejano or whatever the third one was, and then you just got 3 random dudes. It's just, I don't know who these people are, and you just keep adding more to this group, and it doesn't mean anything yet. They're just trying to rush it without really introducing any characters, and that's something these writers really need to work on.
And honestly, nobody wants to hear this, but they've done the same thing with LAX, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it takes forever to learn one from the other, and they don't look anything like each other. So they definitely need to do a better job there. Now, here's something that's happening now, right? Obviously, Jeff Jarrett's out. There's room in creative, and everybody's favorite whipping boy, John Gaburick, okay, coming back from the dead. Okay, remember, he was the one that was ousted but kept on in some sort of a consulting role, taking on a bigger role within creative. This is the rumor, but of course everybody's running with it because that's what we do. What do you think about Big John in creative?
It makes me wonder what they're thinking. I think this was a question somebody asked during the conference call. You drilled into the audience really hard that everything before this new era was not working, was just garbage, and now you've taken the guy who was running creative during that garbage era and put him back in creative again. So I don't know why they would do something like this. I mean, he's already proven that he's not a writer that's going to move the needle, like, at all. So I'm not sure what kind of results they're hoping for here. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't get it at all. First of all, please God, keep him away from talent relations.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I think that, when we look at the issues we had with John Gaburick, where he really, really was just awful was talent relations. Because let's face it, that's not what the guy does. Okay? He was a producer at WWE, not a guy that ran talent relations. And I said it all during his tenure. Don't hate him for not doing a good job with this. It's not a role he should have ever been given. That having been said, creative is not production either. I thought Big John did a good job with production. I don't know what he has to offer to creative because he's a production guy. They should get creative guys. They should try to hire Dave Lagana back, if they want to do that. So I don't get what he's going to add. But I'm not as terrified about it as some of the others are, simply because I'm going to point to things that did go right during his reign. EC3, right? We got EC3 built up, right? He actually knew, or somebody when he was there knew what to do with Rockstar Spud and others as well, right? So I went through and was pointing out some of the names that came in with Big John, and Eli Drake came in under Big John. Okay, didn't know what to do with him, but he got him in. Drew Galloway came in, right? We had Bobby Lashley come in. EC3 come in. You look at those guys right there, and of course Eddie Edwards, right? Davey Richards. These are guys that are still really, big within the company even today. So I don't know that John did a bad job there per se. Obviously, finding EC3 and Eli Drake, those are two diamonds in the rough. That's exactly the kind of talent the company needs. Just don't let him negotiate with them. So we'll see what happens. My bigger concern, and FK, I don't know whether you share this concern or not, is just that it's not going to be the same way the show was booked before, and we're going to switch up the format once again.
That might not be such a bad thing. I don't know about you, but I haven't been in love with the current format under Jeff Jarrett's tenure running creative. I think there were a lot of logic holes in the writing, and I think in general it just seemed like story and characters had kind of been minimized in favor of wrestling without a lot of proper context and story built up for it to mean that much. There was an over-reliance on squash matches and filler segments where story should have been. So I'm not against a change in creative. In fact, I was kind of rooting for a change in creative. Now, John Gaburick, that's not a change I was looking forward to. But here's the thing. If you already kind of know what John Gaburick's going to bring to the table and nobody's really that excited about it, why not take a chance on someone new? Hire someone, look around backstage, see who you've got, see who's somebody who hasn't gotten a chance yet, give them a shot. I mean, what have you got to lose at this point?
Yeah, it's probably more comfort level than anything else with Gaburick. He's there, he's done it before, they know they can kind of keep the ship moving. I'm with you, by the way, with the way creatives run this year. I am not as ecstatic about it as some of the other HeelCasters are. I see the same things that you see, to be brutally honest with you. I see a lot of turnover without character development. And I'm not against, the squash match. I think the squash match is a great way to, develop characters. I think they've used it, fairly well with Congo Kong, to be honest with you. Making him look like a monster. But when you've got this many people on the roster that are this new, you have to introduce them, and you can't look at Ring of Honor as being the model way to do that, because Ring of Honor just brings people in and pretends like you already know who they are, and you probably do if you're watching Ring of Honor, because that's exactly what they cater to. So I'm not necessarily one that's against a change. I'll tell you whose booking I did like, and that's Billy Corgan. I like the fact that I thought Billy was fresh and innovative, and we saw different things. We got the K, we got the Broken Hardys. It was just something that we hadn't seen that I thought really set, Impact aside and apart from some of the other promotions that we see out there. Now, FK9, you and I have talked about this. Apparently, Billy Corgan's been trying to work out some form of a deal with the NWA and Anthem and some form of an alliance.
Yeah, we heard about this a while back. Billy bought the name NWA or the brand. I'm not sure if he has the tape library or whatever, but he's the new man in charge with NWA. Good luck to him making that brand relevant again, because it hasn't meant anything in a while. But yeah, the guy is just dead set on getting his own company. It didn't work out with him buying Impact, so now he's got NWA, and he wants to... Apparently he was trying to work out some kind of a deal, some kind of talent exchange thing. Not sure how that was going to work, because as far as I know, he doesn't have any talent signed yet. But I do think Impact would probably benefit from having Billy back in the mix in some capacity. I'm with you. I liked a lot of what he did. His ideas may have been a little too zany for some people, but he did have an appreciation for storylines and characters and outside-the-box thinking that I think is sorely lacking in the product right now.
Yeah, Rosemary, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those vignettes with her backstory, with the talking tree and all that stuff.
Yeah, just epic stuff.
It was completely batshit crazy, but it was awesome.
It was batshit crazy, and it was awesome all at the same time. Some of the things that Corgan said is that he's actually formed a friendship with Ed Nordholm. They talk at least once a week, if not twice, is what he's saying. And that he actually proposed, and I got a kick out of this when I read it, FK9, proposed earlier this summer about helping Impact with a reboot, and they would use the NWA brand, right? And by the way, I agree with you on the NWA brand completely, as kind of like the SmackDown, the secondary rival brand to Impact. And they just couldn't get it done. And, a lot of people out there are saying, well, what does the NWA bring to Impact? And the answer is obviously not very much. I know they have a champion. I know that he is on loan to the show out in Hollywood. What do they call themselves again?
Beats me.
Yeah, Championship Wrestling of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's
what they call themselves. And that Corgan wants to make sure he gets it right. He does have some form of a library. I think McMahon owns most of the good stuff. He owns all the stuff from down in Carolina and on the East Coast, and Mid-South as well, I believe. But he's got some form of a library, and he's got a belt that he's hoping brings people back. He also said that the average age of the wrestling fan these days supposedly is about 57 years old.
Yikes.
Can you imagine? 57 years old. That seems kind of bizarre, but he's run the studies, and I trust his knowledge of that more so than my own. It just doesn't feel right to me, and I guess he's feeling like the NWA brand might mean something to those folks. It means a lot to me because I grew up watching the NWA, I grew up watching the WWF, and so it does mean a lot to me. But I'll also forever thank Ric Flair. And so he needs to get some talent to go with it if he's going to make it work.
Where's that talent going to come from, though?
Right, exactly. Where's it going to come from? Because there's really not a whole lot that isn't already signed somewhere. So who knows? Obviously, you're rooting for him. You're rooting for the best. And I think that any time that we have an opportunity to get more content, into Anthem and on the Global Wrestling Network, if that is a thing. I mean, they announced it was going to be last month. They put it online for a couple hours. They took it off. We haven't seen or heard from it since. But any more content that we can get on that channel and that's wrestling, I think it would be fantastic.
It would. Yeah, I'm rooting for Billy to succeed here. I really am. And if he can get some kind of viable roster put together, maybe even some form of TV deal and some market, and maybe build that brand up. And if he can turn it into a viable show, I would welcome the idea of it being a secondary brand for Impact. I think that would be great if they could make it work.
I agree with you, by the way. I think a secondary brand, if they can make it work, would be great. But even if it didn't get that far, you know what? Take a show, put it on the Global Wrestling Network, and we can just watch it and enjoy it that way. I mean, just imagine what the world would be like, right? The wrestling world would be like if we had Impact, if we had AAA, if we had Crash and Noah, right? And Corgan's NWA, because Corgan's NWA, regardless of the talent, it's going to be different than everybody else's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, doesn't that sound like a wrestling network that you'd pay for?
It does sound good, and from what I understand, I mean, the Global Wrestling Network isn't necessarily going to have much in the way of original, like, digital exclusive content, so, I mean, the more just content in general that they can get, the better. So if they can get some kind of show going with NWA, put that on on GWN, yeah, absolutely. That's the direction they need to be going in.
Absolutely. Of course, Ed Nordholm may not have a whole lot to say about it. So what have you heard about this, about him stepping back and others stepping forward?
Not a whole lot. The report I read wasn't very detailed. It basically just said he's taking a bit of a lesser role in the company, which kind of sucks. I don't know what happened. Maybe the whole rebranding issue with GFW not working out kind of bruised his ego a little bit. Maybe that was a factor in it. But it's really unfortunate because aside from that, I thought Nordholm had been doing a good job. I mean, certainly better than his predecessor. But yeah, I mean, there's some additional Anthem employee working there now and maybe helping him out. I mean, hopefully it's for the best. Anthem seemed to have their heads screwed on straight, so I don't think they would put somebody in that role if he or she didn't know what they were doing. So I don't know. I hope things work out with Ed Nordholm because we need some freaking stability in this company, and it seems like that's something we just never seem to have because there's always one upheaval or another happening every couple of months, and I'm tired of it. We need a power structure in place, and we need some stability there. So just Nordholm, I just hope he works out whatever the issue is, and we can get him back full time, quick.
Yeah, I'm with you, but then again, I just want a CEO, and I want stability as well. Let's remember, if Ed Nordholm really started with no plan, which supposedly he's saying he did, if he then rebranded the company to a brand that the company doesn't actually own,
Oy.
This is hard, right? Because I want stability for the company because I'm a fan of the company, right? That's why we're here talking. But if that's the case and he works for me, he doesn't work for me for very long, right? Actually, I don't think that I think I'm fire all legal too for allowing that to happen. But apparently he is legal, and apparently he's working with legal at this particular point, according to rumors. But then apparently he's also over in Japan with Noah as well. All we know is there's some additional Anthem employee that's running around in some form of a role. So I'm with you. I hope that they work things out with him, but they definitely need to establish stability. And the last thing that we want, and FKN, I'm not trying to give you a heart attack here, okay? But bear in mind, this is the same company, okay, that fired Jeff Jarrett, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff Jarrett came back. It's the same company that Billy Corgan sued and is eyeing an opportunity to come back and has a good working relationship with him. It is not out of the question for us to see who back in some form of a role. Now, I can't imagine that they're going to let Dixie Carter, yes, I said to DC, that they're not going to that they would let Dixie Carter actually run the company. But again, if Big John is coming back to help out, who has better internal knowledge of the company? And if you put somebody over top of her, would be able to help through a difficult period and still has an ownership stake.
Once Eric Bischoff showed up on Raw, everything was on the table. There's nothing that's not on the table anymore. Just never say never, because you just don't know. If anything is possible, you just don't know what's going to happen. That's one of the things I love about this business, is there's no shortage of surprises.
No, there's never a shortage of surprises. And the other thing too is it's the same people getting retreaded. You know, it's Jim Cornette, right? It's Vince Russo. It's Eric Bischoff. You know, Sean Gerberg is now back. You know, now I can add folks like Billy Corgan to the mix of people. They just come, and then they go and they come back, and they go and they come back, and then they go do different things. So folks, don't be shocked if you don't find out that Dixie has some form of a role at some point. Although I will say that she's going to be a PR nightmare if they did bring her back. So they might have that going for us. But as FK9 said, never say never. And speaking of never say never, we may have different sites for TV tapings for 2018. PW Insider is reporting that New York City, Toronto, and Chicago are being eyed for potential TV tapings. FK9, what would it mean to you if we got all three of those next year?
You know, I really have no preferences between those. Those are all big wrestling, smart mark wrestling heavy markets. As long as they go someplace where they can draw a good crowd, I'm good.
I'm with you as well. I like the fact that their proximity to Anthem is relatively workable. Right, you're within a day's drive, an easy day's drive from everything, so they can still keep the equipment there. You know, they can bring the the staff down and whatnot for those places. You know, and I would say that Ottawa's another potential possibility. You know, they could also go back over to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, as another opportunity, and Detroit. Right, Detroit's another big market that's kind of up that way. And kind of really establish that as their territory, and then they can start to work with some of the Canadian and Northeast and Midwest talent, and be able to bring them in, a little bit cheaper than flying people all over the country and all over the world as well. So, let's keep our fingers crossed for that one. But again, we could wind up back in the impact zone, because they're not saying the impact zone is done. It's just, I'm just so over the impact zone being dead and them having to pipe in, crowd noise.
Oh yeah,
for certain talent.
Don't get me started.
I mean,
it's so noticeable.
It is. It's terribly noticeable. You see people sitting there staring at their phones, and the crowd's going nuts.
It takes me out of the show every time. Ugh.
Yeah, but you know what? At least they're trying to establish a form of excitement for the show versus just let it be dead too.
Yeah, and we'll finally get to see who's really over and who isn't. Because it's downright impossible to tell at Universal Studios these days.
Honest to God, it is. And then in other news, it looks like the Global Force Wrestling logo has been completely removed from the Impact intro. So take that as you will, but it looks like we are just back to being Impact, I guess.
Good. I never understood why they rebranded in the first place. Okay, rebranding from TNA to Impact Wrestling, yeah, okay, I can understand that. The letters TNA make it hard to market, okay, fine. Impact Wrestling, that's a good company name. But then they merge with Global Force Wrestling, a startup wrestling company that never got out of the gate, that sputtered and kind of fizzled out. And it ended up with Jeff Jarrett trying to parlay the brand into some kind of pyramid scheme. They merge with that, and then they rebrand themselves with the lesser-known brand. What the... to this day, I don't understand that. I was really rooting for Ed Nordholm. I was really on his side until that happened, and I don't really blame him that much, I guess, because I talked about this on my own show. Jeff Jarrett could sell icicles to an Eskimo. I mean, give the guy credit that he is a con man of the highest caliber, and I guess you have to really give him credit, because that he was able to convince Ed Nordholm, who does seem to be a fairly intelligent guy, that he was able to convince Ed Nordholm that this was a good idea in the first place is mind-boggling to me. But he did it. By hook or by crook, he did it. And they didn't even own the frickin' brand.
I know, right? It's like Coke rebranding itself to RC Cola or something like that and not owning the brand. It's like,
I know
it.
It's ridiculous. It's kind of funny, but hey, lesson learned. Hopefully they won't make that mistake again. I mean, that was something that we kind of had to deal with during Dixie's tenure, was them making the same mistakes over and over. I have faith that Ed Nordholm won't make this mistake twice.
I have faith they won't let Ed Nordholm make that mistake twice.
Yeah.
That just totally boggles my mind, and it cracks me up. Now, FK9, I don't know if you're aware or not, because we talked about this beforehand, but you know where I went this weekend, right? Know what I did?
You went to Maryland Championship Wrestling.
I did. You knew who was there, right?
Yes, I do, you son of a bitch.
My sister was there, dude.
Yeah.
My sister, Rosemary, was at Maryland Championship Wrestling. So you knew who I got to meet, right?
Well, you get to meet her all the time because you're your sister.
I get to meet her all the time.
Well, you see her at like holiday dinners and stuff.
We legitimately had a family reunion at Maryland Championship Wrestling. I kid you not. I'm in line, and I got these people in front of me and these people behind me, and they're all talking about all the people that they met and the wrestlers that they know and everything, and I'm there with Dudette, and I'm not saying a word, right? I'm like, oh yeah, man, that's cool. Well, I get up there and there's Rosemary, and let me tell you something, dude. My sister, she gave me a big old hug. I had face paint straight down my neck, on my arm, everything. It was fantastic. Just absolutely without a doubt. And this is something, of course I already knew, but just one of the truest, kindest, greatest people that you're ever going to meet. And as a performer, just fantastic in character. Never breaks kayfabe, right? Always doing the right thing by the fans. But the show itself, FK9, was a trip. Okay, and it was there are a couple of good things. There were some things that were just totally screwed up. The wife and I, we get to the show, and we're about 10 minutes before bell time, and they have some matches that are already going. We walk over to our seats, and we see some people that are sitting in our seats. So, we just walk up to one of the attendants, and we're like, hey, here are our tickets. Can you find our seats? Knowing full well where they are. So they go over, and they say to the people, hey, you got tickets? And they show them a ticket. They walk to the back, and they take their tickets to the back. Next thing I know, they come over, and they give me and the wife the Bob Uecker treatment. Okay? So if you can imagine, the only way to get the best ticket that you can get without going to the previous show, right, is the third row, because they sell out the first two rows the previous show, right? So we're at third row seats, and I am sitting, on an angle, right, directly behind the friggin' turnbuckles, okay? On the back corner. So, of course, the action's facing the front because that's where the camera is, right? So now the referee stands in the corner the whole damn night, right? So the wife and I are going, oh, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, we're not going to see anything, right? But it gets better because guess who the first person out for the start of the show is?
Oh.
Big, sexy Kevin Nash.
Really?
He comes out to do a promo. And he's walking to the ring. Or should I say FK9 wobbling to the ring. Now, mind you, he's coming in at the exact opposite angle of me, right? So I got everything between me and him. But I see him coming down the ramp, and I'm going, hey, hon, he's drunk. And my wife's going, no, he can't be drunk. Like, he's stumbling. He's got to be drunk, right? Yeah. So he gets in the ring, guy in front of me, he's going, I love you, Kevin Nash. You ended Goldberg streak. And, of course, the whole world can hear him, right? So Nash, he gets up, and he's going, I did end Goldberg's streak. But he's slurring his words, okay? So now he's stumbling into the ring. He's slurring his words. Then he's screwing up his lines, and he's saying stuff that's kind of like half of one sentence, half of another sentence. And I'm going, he's freaking intoxicated.
Oh, boy.
So we got Kevin Nash intoxicated, and so we watch the show, and it's an indie show, right? So you're not expecting to have 5-star match after 5-star match after 5-star match. You're getting local talent from here, local talent from there. The wrestling that we expect to see there is not the same that we expect to see on a television set, right? Mm-hmm. So now they come out, and it's the match for the main event, and they bring out Brittany Blake. Now, FK9, you familiar with Brittany Blake?
Not really.
Okay, so she's a Jersey gal, okay? Cute kid, a sweetheart. I mean, you can't help but just want to root for this girl to be successful. But on a scale of a 1 to 10, FK9, do you consider yourself with a 1 being you know nothing about women professional wrestlers, and a 10 meaning you really know a shitload about them? Where do you consider yourself?
Oh wow, I don't pretend to be an expert or anything. Maybe a 7.
I mean, I think to me, right? It's you and Numero 47. You and Numero are neck and neck. I mean, you guys know the knockouts and the potential knockouts like nobody else. I mean, you're an expert in my book, so I'm going to give you expert level. All right.
All right. Thank you.
You never heard of Brittany Blake, right? So after Brittany, they hit Rosemary's music. Now, I got to tell you something. When they hit my sister's music, the whole friggin' place goes bananas. You talked about wanting to find out who's over in the live crowd. Let me tell you something. Biggest pop of the night by far, okay, for anybody, Rosemary. Of course, if you look at the names on the card, she's the national brand on the card anyway. And God knows she's over in Impact, so it makes sense. Her line to see her was off the charts, okay? By the way, so was Kevin Nash's. Kevin Nash was I think 2 or 3 hours late. I don't even remember how long he late was because I left. Okay, okay. On the other hand, they had Sunny. I got to digress in the story just a little bit here. They had Sunny with nobody in front of her. They had what's her name? The chick from Mandy Leon, right? Her and Sunny were just kicking it back, because they had nobody in front of them. And of course, Madison Rayne was there. Okay. Uh-huh. And Madison actually, I was actually gonna stop over when I got done with Rosemary because she was next to Rosemary, but she had left because she was bored. So at any rate, right? They hit Rosemary's music, and here comes Rosemary, and it's a 3-way, and of course the third of the 3-way is Madison Rayne. So for some bizarre reason, they're introducing Madison Rayne last. Okay, and, right? And don't get me wrong, I love Madison. I love me some Madison Rayne. I have always liked Madison Rayne. I think she's a doll. I think she's a sweetheart. I'm glad to get to watch her live. Bring her back the next time Maryland Championship Wrestling. But I'm like, why is she getting top billing over Rosemary here? On what planet does this happen?
You could have done the right thing!
Maryland Championship Wrestling!
But you didn't have the balls!
Right? So, Rosemary comes out. They do the match. I got the Bob Uecker seats. All I know, FK9, is something happened, and Madison was on the outside of the ring, where she spent most of the time, by the way. Okay, she was in Queen Bee mode. She did something to Rosemary, and Brittany Blake rolls up and pins Rosemary.
Wow.
And Rosemary does the job.
No.
Now, I got to tell you something, right? I know my sis, and I know she does not mind doing the job, right? She's high quality, professional all the way, and she's looking at it as, hey, maybe I can get a return match at it, right? Let's make some money. She's not stupid here, okay? She's looking for a return, and she's looking to help Brittany Blake, who by all stretches is just a fantastic gal, right? So here I am. I got the shithole seats. I watch a drunk Kevin Nash, right? And I just watch, forget favorite wrestlers, one of my favorite people, okay, do a job to somebody who, as much as I love Brittany, and I really do, this should never happen, right?
Yeah.
After not getting top billing too, of all people, again, I love Madison, but Madison Rayne. I'm on Twitter, and I'm going ape shit. I'm like, I'd see more if my seats didn't suck, right? I'm like, freaking Kevin Nash is drunk, right? And of course, I'm tagging Maryland Championship Wrestling the whole way through, right? And nobody's coming out to talk to me about my seats because I clearly got seats with different ticket numbers on them. The next morning, I look up and I see a tweet from Brittany Blake. And this is going to make you think this is funny. This is going to make you laugh your ass off.
Oh, jeez.
Brittany Blake thanks Rosemary and Madison and Madison for giving her a match, which I thought was like, again, this is a nice kid. She's just doing the right thing. She's thanking them for the rub, right?
Yeah.
So I reply back and I say, hey, Brittany, you just got the best in the business to job to you. Glad to see you appreciate the rub. Seemed like a nice thing to say. Forget all the bullshit that I was tweeting about him the night before. Some knucklehead in the Maryland Championship Wrestling account responds to that and goes, insider term, nice. And he does like the thumb up and the pinky down and the smiley face of somebody smiling and with crying at the same time. Because I used the word rub. And I'm like,
who doesn't know that term?
Right? That's not an insider term. Dude, if that's an insider term to you, you need to just get out the business. This is like, everybody knows this shit, right? So I'm laughing my ass off. I get done laughing, and I'm just like, all right, well, I have a feeling this will show up on this week's HeelCast. I said, thanks for the motivation, bud, or bro, or something like that. And then I gave him the same two emoticons that he gave me. But I'm like, you never mentioned anything about the seats. I mean, I blasted the crap out of him for it too, right? Because it was like, I got screwed. I got Bob Euchred, right? And it's just like, and you picked the one time that I'm actually telling your talent that they're doing a great job. So, and I also replied to Brittany Blake, and I said, look, Brittany, you're a great gal. You're a classy person. You're going to be on national TV sometime in the near future. Because honestly, she will be. She really does have potential. She just hasn't reached it yet. She just needs a little bit more time. So that was most of it. There was one thing though that I want to touch on because one thing went really, really well in this, and it was completely unintentional. I think that's what made it better. But they had Tony Atlas teaming with Henry Godwinn. Okay. And what happened was that the two old guys go to the ring and do a promo. I mean, they got to let Tony dance and do USA chants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Henry's out there with them because they got to give Henry some time too. And what happened was they call themselves the Rock and Bowl Express. Yeah, it's exactly what you would imagine. I mean, these guys, you should look them up sometime. And they're like greasers wearing bowling outfits, and they walk around beforehand with like bowling pins and do stupid shit with them. They come out to have an impromptu match, and Tony Atlas and Henry Godwinn, without making any kind of a political undertone statement, just really showed what our society should be like, right? You got the big hulking black fella with the big country boy, and they were gold. They were having a great time. Of course, they won the match, right? I mean, it was a pretty sad match because let's face it, those two guys, they can't go anymore. The other guys are, I mean, they're there to be jabronis, right?
Yeah.
But afterwards, they embraced, they walked away, and then of course they had to hit Tony Atlas's music so he could dance for us some more. Everybody was down with it. Everybody was into it. It was just one of those unifying moments that we haven't had in a long time that we needed. That I'm sure they weren't thinking it when they booked it, but those two were just gold. So if I'm gonna laugh at them for some of the stupid shit that happened, I do want to give them credit for actually doing something right along the way, because that was a very heartwarming moment. It really was.
Oh my God. I just Googled the Rock and Bowl Express. I'm looking at pictures of them right now.
You can't make this shit up, can you?
Wow. Oh, that's something.
It is,
Well,
it is
who's the guy in like the pink and leopard print?
He's something. I gotta tell you that there's something else, but there's a reason that they're who they are and where they are and doing what they are, and I think they have a lot of fun. The guy who's always wearing the shades and showing off his chest hair, the one that looks like he's the potbelly guy.
Yeah,
he really is funny. He does not take himself seriously at all. At the same point in time, I think it's safe to say they're not going to show up on Impact Wrestling anytime soon. if you think that that's funny, they have another guy who's named Mike Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to look him up sometime. He actually had his mom come out. Okay. And his mom, she was like almost as over as Rosemary. Okay, she actually did the Mama 317 and stunned his opponent and let him win a belt.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he's another interesting one. But yeah, so that was my weekend. We do have one bit more thing that we have to do before we get to the show, and we have to wish a very happy HeelCast birthday to our buddy Hurls. So this Monday, the night that we're actually recording this right now, is Hurl's birthday. So on behalf of the HeelCast, happy birthday, Hurls. So let's talk about the show, right? Because we did have a show, and it was a pretty good show. It was Victory Road, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the opening match, we got Trevor Lee defeating our buddy Petey Williams, right? What are your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are we could have used more setup before this match happened. You know, as much as the WWE product turns me off these days, one thing I'll say is that they usually do a pretty good job of setting stuff up. Now, that's something we didn't really have here. No real explanation for how Petey got this title shot, how he became the number one contender. He just did. They just, I think the previous week, they just showed a video package saying, Petey, oh yeah, I'm challenging for the X Division title. Well, okay, well, how did that happen? I don't know. There was no number one contendership or match or anything. This is something that just sort of happened off screen somehow. So that's something that could have been set up. They could have had like a promo segment or a backstage pre-tape or something just to give us some context, some reason to root for Petey other than him just being, you know, an X Division pioneer, because we kind of need a little more than just that, you know. So they really could have set that up better. I was happy with the match. You know, this still happened under Jeff Jarrett's booking regime, so we had to expect a lot of overbooking here. But I don't think it detracted that much, really. I mean, you had Caleb Conley interfering. It's kind of weird that Sanjay didn't come out to help Petey. Of course, you know, Petey didn't help Sanjay when they were teaming up on him during his title defense against Trevor Lee. No real explanation for that. So I guess they were friends, and now they're just not friends anymore for some reason. Again, holes in the story here that are just not explained. But, you know, he fights off the interference, gets hit with the belt, he kicks out of that, and they go for a little while, and Trevor Lee finishes the match clean. I appreciated that. I like the clean finish. I think a lot of the time they just go for the lazy finish of the belt shot being the end of the match. But they went for a little while longer. Good match overall. But again, not a whole lot of reason to root for Petey in this situation, and it kind of feels like he's in the spot that Desmond Xavier should be in right now, because he won the Super X Cup and then he just disappeared. So all of his momentum is gone. So maybe that's where they're going next. I hope so. I think that's where they should go next, or they could bring back Andrew Everett, just saying. But yeah, good match. Not a whole lot to complain about, I guess.
I kind of feel the same way. The one thing that I'll add to this is that I think I'd rather see Andrew Everett in this than Caleb Conley. I just find that Andrew Everett is a little bit easier for me to invest in as a character. Caleb Conley just comes off so bland and blah that, you know, I don't want to see him in the ring. And he just doesn't work for me. There's nothing really character about him. He's just some generic guy in black trunks. You know, Andrew Everett at least brings some character to him as well. The one thing that I'll say is that, you know, we interviewed Petey last week. Petey actually, without us really knowing it, told us how this match was going to end, because he made a comment during the show about how he doesn't like it when the interference leads to the pinfall, that he'd rather see it not end directly because of the result of the interference. And that's exactly what happened here. He gets hit in the back of the head with the title. He kicks out of that, but he doesn't quite recover enough to win the match, and so Trevor Lee wins. So it still had an impact. It still left Petey looking, you know, strong. Didn't make him look like a weakling, but it gave Trevor Lee the clean win as well. So Trevor Lee looks good. The fans get some form of there was a winner. But if you're a Petey Williams fan, you can say, well, it was only because it was hit in the back of the head. If you're a Trevor Lee fan, you can say, well, it was clean. So it gives you a little bit more to talk about that way. It was not built up properly at all. I mean, I think that goes without saying, right? So, but I think that they gave the match some time. I think the guys hit their spots, and I think that they were fantastic. I'm with you on Desmond Xavier in this. I'd like to see Desmond Xavier and Matt Sydal on my TV on a regular basis. Imagine the two of them tag teaming together. Lord knows they could use some tag teams in that division. But all in all, it's a decent match. After that, we got the 6-way match with the knockouts. And, you got Taya, Sienna, and Taryn against Gail, Allie, and Rosemary. Now, just saying those 6 names in a match at the same time, as a long time knockout, and I as far as I'm concerned, buddy, you are an expert. What does that feel just to hear those names in the ring together in Impact Wrestling?
It tells me that the knockout division is very top-heavy right now. And I mean that in the best way. I mean, considering there was a time when the entire knockout roster was like 4 girls, and one of them was Velvet Sky. This is quite an improvement. There's been several pretty lengthy periods when the knockout roster was, well, not so good, to put it mildly. But this is, like I said, this is the strongest it's been in a while. Plus, we got some really talented girls that are just sitting backstage waiting to be used, and that's not even counting LVN and Diamante, who I'm also a big fan of. But these are the top 6 girls right now, and that's a really damn good top 6 to have.
I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like we're being treated when we see this. And one of the best parts of this was the fact that they let Sienna as a champ go over. So they still build Sienna to be strong as a champ. When, let's face it, she's in the ring with Taya, who they're trying to build up, Gail Kim, who everybody says always needs to go over, and Rosemary, who's as over as ever going to be. Really, for Sienna to get the win here and to be champion in these circumstances is a great thing for the division. Not that Sienna's not deserving, but because it shows that they're willing to invest in all of these women, right? And let's face it, Taryn Terrell has been gangbusters as well, and we all know what Allie can do. So I was particularly excited that Sienna went over here, and yeah, she cheated, but she's the heel, right? I mean, that's kind of what you expect.
Let me ask you something, though. Based on this match, what would you say is the direction that the Knockout division is taking going into Bound for Glory? Because this is another issue that I'm having right now. Because, okay, I think Taya Valkyrie versus Rosemary is a really strong possibility. That'll probably happen. But what's the situation with the title? Gail Kim comes back. She says she's going after the Knockouts title. She wants to retire with the title. But then here comes Taryn Terrell. And so it looks like they're going to restart their feud. So you've got Taya Rosemary, you've got Gail and Taryn, and meanwhile, here's Sienna without anyone to feud with currently, and she's kind of the odd woman out all of a sudden. What is the plan for these girls going into Bound for Glory? Because it's really not that far off now. I feel like we should have more of a concrete idea than this.
I find it hard to believe that they're going to have 3 matches for the knockouts at Bound for Glory, and Taya and Rosemary. I think you just have to book that one. So that leaves Sienna, Taryn, Gail, and Allie. I find it extremely hard to believe that they're not going to put Gail in the title match. I also find it extremely hard to believe that Gail's not going to win that match. So what does that leave us with? That either leaves us with Gail versus Sienna, with Taryn and Allie sitting out, or maybe potentially a 4-way?
Yeah, I guess, but that seems like such a... It doesn't seem like they're doing much to capitalize on this being Gail's last run. This is kind of Gail's victory lap before she retires, and you'd think they'd want to milk that for all it's worth, and to have what could possibly be her last match be a fatal 4-way instead of like a personal one-on-one feud that you could really get some emotion out of. It doesn't seem like they're really getting everything they can out of this. It's strange.
It feels to me almost like, Taryn and Allie are kind of almost in the way, with Taryn being directly feuding with Gail, when we know Gail needs to find her way to Sienna. So it's almost like they need to make Taryn a stopgap for Gail to get to Sienna. I can't see Sienna dropping the belt that fast. I mean, who's she's going to drop it to? One of the faces? So she drops to one of the faces, then Gail has to get face on face. That's not going to work. So you got to put Sienna in the Bound for Glory as a champ here. But the Taryn and Gail feud, it needs to end. It needs to end with Gail going over so that Gail can go to Sienna and do her victory lap. To me, it would have made more sense here. And I love the fact that they put Sienna over, and I said that, and I really do mean it, but it would have made more sense for Gail to beat Taryn, right? And try to bring some end to that, and then, have Sienna beat her down or something. Or maybe Gail goes over on Sienna, and they kind of do a transition that way. I don't know. FK9, from a storyline perspective, where they're headed with this, it's not real clear, and we're getting close.
Yeah, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with you about the finish. For me, it would have made a lot more sense for the heels to go over by Taryn pinning Gail. And this would come after, also, she would have pinned Gail in that previous tag match that they had, but they always seem to want Allie to eat the pin instead for some reason. I don't understand that, because in my mind, it's a lot more interesting for Gail Kim to be vulnerable since she came back. I mean, she was out for, 8-9 months with an injury, and now she's come back and she's still untouchable, even when she's going into her retirement. For me, I think it's a lot more interesting if she's kind of fighting an uphill battle to get back to the shape that she was in before, but she doesn't really have that same resilience that she used to have because, the injury really took it out of her. So now it's a real battle for her to get through these matches, and now other people are getting wins on her, and she's not really in 100% shape anymore. So now there's a sense of drama here. So if you have Taryn beat her a couple times in these tag matches, and it doesn't hurt her because there's a reason she's still hurting from the back injury, then there's a reason to want to see Gail get revenge. And then you could have those two do a singles match leading up to Bound for Glory, maybe for the number one contendership, have Gail finally get the win on her there, and then you could do that one-on-one against Sienna for the title of Bound for Glory, and then it means more, at least in my mind.
Kind of put her on a little bit of a losing streak to make her become the underdog as opposed to the one that everybody expects to win.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time we saw Gail Kim in that position? It just seems like a more interesting way to go to me.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe with Kong 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to answer your question, that's definitely a way to go with it. I think in terms of you saying them wanting Allie to take the pin. Let's face it, she's the one that theoretically doesn't know how to wrestle, and they need to stop that, right? But it makes her an easy pin, and unfortunately for her and for us as well, they're going with it because it's like, oh well, Allie can take the pin. Allie can take the pin. As long as she looks a little better every time, Allie can take the pin. Well, wouldn't it be cool to see Allie get a pin on somebody? See her get a pin on a Sienna, or get a pin on a Taya, or a Taryn, or a Gail, Rosemary, any of these girls. That would be like, wow. That is the exact opposite of Gail, right? Where Gail might need to be taken down a notch to be brought up a notch. Allie needs to be brought up a notch.
I know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me that Gail is still the one they're protecting instead of the girl that's going to be here after Gail retires. I mean, yeah, Allie really hasn't been playing that character who's still learning how to wrestle. I mean, it's accepted that she kind of knows what she's doing in there now, but she's still the one eating a lot of these pins. It kind of feels like they should have evolved the character beyond that by now, and she shouldn't be that vulnerable anymore.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about being vulnerable, right? There is your new favorite wrestler, because your old favorite wrestler is now gone. There's Grado, who's apparently being vulnerable with your other favorite wrestler, Joseph Park.
Oh God.
And it looks like Grado might not be making as much money as he thought.
Yeah, who could have seen that coming? He's not making as much money as he thought working for an imaginary law firm that doesn't exist. Okay, I have a bone to pick here. This whole thing about Park sponsoring Grado's work visa. Didn't we learn a couple of years ago on the UK tour that Park did not exist? That it was just an empty building? That it was all in Abyss's head? That it wasn't a real law firm? Didn't we establish that? And now all of a sudden we're just retconning that whole thing, and now it's an actual law firm that can sponsor an actual work visa. I mean, a little consistency is all I'm asking for here.
Hey,
I mean, if you
FP9,
wanted, yeah.
I got a question for you. Alrighty, it's a good one. All right, here we go. What do Samoa Joe and Bram have in common?
I have no idea.
Yeah, both got completely abducted. We have no idea how the hell they made it back. this is freaking Impact Wrestling, dude. You know, Park getting just through this head, and Grado didn't watch that episode. I guess he missed it.
Neither apparently did the writers.
Right. Sadly, they probably didn't. You know, they probably didn't.
But what boggles my mind though is isn't Chris Park like on the creative team? Isn't he a contributor in the writers' room now?
Yes.
You think if anyone would be able to point out the holes in this, it would have been him, right? He would have mentioned that, guys, that's it's not a real law firm. It's all imaginary. It's not real.
But you're missing the point, FK9. It does exist in his head.
But how?
He's the one that doesn't know that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but then how can he sponsor a work visa? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense that Impact Wrestling couldn't sponsor his damn work visa either. I keep thinking, why doesn't he just walk in the back, okay, walk up to Jim Cornette and say, will you sponsor me? Why does he need Joseph Park? And the other thing, too, that gets me at this whole thing is now they're going to Canada, right? So he could have just freaking married Laurel Van Ness, and he would have been fine, because he only has to go to Canada.
Yeah,
Why,
I mean...
why not do that?
I don't know. I guess because they...
to marry him, and he's hanging out and having dinner with Joseph Park, okay, when the company is going to freaking Canada, which is exactly where he needs to be at this point.
I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to have him dump Laurel so they can humiliate her again, because humiliating the LVN character is one of their favorite things to do. It still bugs me that they did that. Like, they didn't let her get, like, any kind of revenge on him for dumping her and driving her insane again. It really kind of feels like they threw LVN under the bus with that one.
Yeah, it does. But let's face it, you know, there's no way that they can do anything, because that girl is absolute freaking gold in that role. I mean, who would have thought that she would get this much mileage out of wearing a freaking beat-up wedding dress and some screwed-up makeup?
Not me. I thought you'd get maybe a month or two out of that tops.
If that. And she's still going, and I'm as a fan, I'm still eating it up. So kudos to her. Kudos to her for making it work. In the meantime, let's face it, they did keep this segment very short. You know, it's the comedic relief in the middle of the show.
And that was the only time we saw Grado all night.
Exactly. And that's what you need. You need bits and pieces of this stuff, and not to have the entire show centered around the Rock and Roll Express or some fat dude's mama or anything like that. Okay? The Rock and Roll Express, folks, if you haven't checked it out, you got to check these guys out. They freaking crack me up. But I'll tell you who doesn't crack me up, James freaking Storm. And James Storm on a promo, FK9, is freaking gold, regardless of who this guy is with.
Absolutely. I think James Storm on the mic, you know, on a good night, he's one of the best talkers in the industry. I mean, this guy knows how to get a reaction out of, well, anyone. I mean, he can still get a huge pop in the Impact Zone, which these days is damn near impossible. So credit him for that. And I think this was, for me, this was the segment that kind of saved this whole AAA storyline, because it was doing absolutely nothing for me up until that point. It's like, until this segment, I was feeling like, okay, they're just trying to pimp AAA talent at the expense of their own. I have no idea why this is happening or why I should care about any of it. I don't know who these guys are. I don't care who they are. You haven't made any effort to introduce them as characters or tell us why they're on the show or what their purpose is. But now it finally feels like a real feud. James Storm explained everything. The feud with the tension with EC3, that's sort of addressed, so you can understand why they're in this position now, and you kind of understand what Phantasma and Tejano and Pagano are doing there now. Okay, it's a battle over company pride. It's not just about, okay, it's still about pimping AAA to an extent, but now it's because they're heels and they're trying to get a rise out of everybody, not just because Jeff Jarrett is desperate to, shove AAA down the fans' throats whether they want it or not. So we get set up for an actual feud here, and you get some real heat, and you get some semblance of character from the AAA guys, and this is all very good stuff. It was necessary. We needed something like this. Again, I'm not sure where Eddie Edwards was. Shows up last week. Nowhere to be seen this week. Again, holes in the writing. Not really addressed there. But James Storm and EC3, they get an actual feud with these guys now, and that's a huge improvement. I still think this is not where they need to be going into Bound for Glory, because it's damn criminal that these guys are not in singles feuds where they fucking should be. But compared to this where the AAA feud was last week, this was a really big improvement.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you, you mentioned Eddie Edwards not being there. I think where they really missed was they didn't bring Pagano back. We barely knew who the guy is. You want to introduce us to these people, put them on TV. At the very least, have EC3 come out and save Storm from both and leave Eddie Edwards off. But now you don't put Pagano out either. And so it's like you're missing out on the guy. And he's the guy that, of the three of them, they keep saying he main evented AAA Triple Mania last year, right? Pagano was in the main event. How many times they told us this? Like 100? But they don't bring him out and actually get us to invest in it. And of the three of them, he's the one that actually looks like the one that you would be most interested in following. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he's the one that you think that you could do the most with of the three. Just because he's got the funny face paint, and I think it gives his character a little bit of depth that we could probably get into a little bit faster. I find it very interesting that they're keeping James Storm and EC3 together. They had a fantastic feud. I mean, I thought it was a great feud. But now they're turning them and making them friends, and it's like, can't you think of something better to do with these two guys and just keep them together?
Yeah.
There's nobody else in the company?
Yeah, there's nothing else for these guys to do than just team up after they were feuding. After EC3 put James Storm out with a concussion, now they're going to team up just like that.
Exactly, right when Storm comes back from the concussion. And it makes no sense from that perspective, but also from the perspective of we want to see new and fresh matchups, and having those guys as a team is a great team, but we just saw them together. Mix it up a little bit. You got plenty of folks on this roster that they could work with. And I know EC3 and that character needs some rebuild. It really does. But, not with Storm. I mean, Storm's a guy who puts everybody over. I mean, he just does. That's what he does. But, let him work on somebody else along the way and let EC3 go on and do something else. There's plenty of room for both of those guys. And putting them together and having them feud with AAA, I don't know. Not right after they just feuded.
Yeah, there's a lack of creativity here. It definitely feels like, we want to pimp AAA, and we need somebody for these guys to feud with. Well, who can we feud them with? Oh, James Storm and EC3 aren't doing anything right now. Let's just throw them into this spot. It just, really? I mean, these are two of your top guys, or two of your should-be top guys. And considering what happened with Eli Drake when you sent him down to AAA and they ended up putting him in a match against a guy who I understand it is kind of a curtain jerker, jobber, not a real star, and they're giving him a world title match. Maybe taking these AAA guys and feuding them with three former world champions, maybe that's pushing them a little bit too much. Maybe that's giving them a little bit too much leeway. Maybe, I don't know, put them in the mid-card or something, feud them with some mid-card guys who aren't getting a lot of screen time right now, instead of two guys who should be in singles feuds at the top of the card. It just seems kind of wasteful.
Yeah, and then if they go over with the crowd, promote them up the card. Shocking thought, right?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of shocking thoughts,
nice segue.
The next match, okay, was World Tag Team match. And you had my favorite tag team, Ohio versus Everything. Folks, I love this tag team so much, I don't even understand their name, okay? And they go over on LAX. FK9. We have new World Tag Team Champions. Facepalm.
Yeah. Wow, what do you even say about this? I will say that I thought this was OVE's best match so far.
That was easy.
Yeah, well, we've seen them have what 2 matches, well, 3 matches, and one of them was just a highlight reel in Crash. But I do mean that in a positive way. It was their best match so far. Okay, I mean that's a step in the right direction. But was there really any reason to switch the titles here? I understand that there's a lack of viable tag teams right now, especially since they don't seem to want to use Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid for whatever reason. But considering this is the feud you're rolling with in going into Bound for Glory, I assume, and has to last you until November, was this really a good idea to switch the titles so soon? I mean, you haven't even really built up this feud that much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, LAX have run through everybody else, okay, but, I mean, OVE are still technically undefeated. I mean, you could have teased this a while longer. You could have had it end in a DQ, and that would have been fine. It just feels like they blew their load really early here. I mean, the match didn't even go that long, really, which I didn't expect the finish to happen at that time. It sure didn't look like the audience was expecting the finish to come when it did. It almost kind of feels like they called an audible here. For what reason, I have no idea, but to switch the titles this soon, when OVE are still trying to connect with the audience and get over, you haven't even gotten the fans behind them that much yet. To switch the titles now, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
I don't get any of this. Okay, you talk about the match finish coming out. I was like, that's the way this ends. I mean, that was like, wow. Talk about anticlimactic. Let me ask you a question, FK9. So you're gonna build a brand, and the brand's name is it? And I know this is gonna sound funny because it's really not. No, it's no longer the brand name, but Global Force Wrestling. Okay, because that was the brand at the time this stuff was filmed, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have your tag team champions. They're going to be named Ohio versus everything. Everything. I mean, what, are they going to have a match against a freaking turnbuckle? By the way, if they do, that's the match I want to see because my seat, I would have been able to actually watch it. But what the hell kind of name is that? That doesn't just reek, okay, of independent wrestling. I don't know what does. I totally would expect those two guys to show up and wrestle the Rock and Bowl Express at my, at my local 5 and Dime store or gym or wherever the hell it is, right? So it actually is in a Kmart, but that's a different story. So that's what you expect from OVE, and when you watch them come to the ring, and they got these masks on, and it's almost like they're trying to be the Broken Hardys. Of course, they're really not trying to be the Broken Hardys, but instead of doing it with these wonderful, beautifully well thought out designed $5,000 outfits, they're doing it with something that they found on the discount rack after Halloween. And it looks that way. And it looks stupid. And then they come along and they say, well, we wrestle 2 different styles. So it makes them special, FK9s, that they don't wrestle the same way. It's like, it makes for a shitty tag team. How are you supposed to establish symmetry? How are you supposed to work well together if you have completely different styles? That's why it wasn't a tag team finisher. That's why it was just, one guy gets the win. It's like, what are you thinking? And then they're like, we're going to bring them in. The only tag team on the roster. I mean, mind you, there's other guys they could have put together to get them through a set of tapings. Okay? But we're going to bring these guys in. And we've spent all this time now building up LAX, okay, to the point where people actually know which one's which. And we're just going to be like, you're going to lose to these guys, okay? You beat everybody else, but you're going to lose to this. What the hell were they thinking?
I got nothing. I'm kind of with you on the name. I don't really get it either. Maybe the writers just have a hard-on for acronyms right now. LAX, VOW, OVE. Maybe it's just a thing they're doing. I don't know. I agree with you. I think this is another case where the writers really need to do more work. They didn't really introduce OVE as characters. We as fans don't know anything about them. I mean, those introductory hype videos were cool, but all they really got from them was their name and the fact that they're brothers and they're gonna kill it every night, and aside from that, and them being from Ohio, what do we know about them? We don't know anything.
Well, they're killers. They're ratings killers, that's for sure. Because I'm sorry, they're hard to watch, man. They're just not that good.
I don't know. I thought they came off pretty well in those videos over in Crash. That was more of a case of the production being like really helping them out. I thought that was the best they'd come off so far, in my opinion.
And maybe they need a more live crowd to come off. I mean, you certainly want to root for them. I mean, you'd like to see these guys come out and be a great tag team. I don't know why you wouldn't like to see it. And maybe that's it. Maybe in front of a live crowd that's actually into it, they get it up and they do a little bit better than in front of the Impact Zone. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe they're not used to being in that sterile of an environment that they were in. So maybe you're onto something here. Maybe that's really not who they are on a live environment. But man, in this show, I'm just like, oh, okay, here comes OVE. I'm looking at them kind of like I look at BOW and thinking, okay, can we move on to the next team? That's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm looking, I don't know about you, FK9, but I'm looking Bound for Glory. I'm looking for LAX to win them back. I'm not sure it happens between then and now and then, though. I don't know what the purpose of that would be.
Where do you go from there, though?
You move on to somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but who?
I think that you could probably do a Garza Kid Laredo Jr. I think that you could probably put a tag team together. I think Matt Sydal and Desmond Xavier would make for an awesome tag team.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it was that easy, and I assume it is that easy, why haven't they done it already? I mean, there's plenty of makeshift teams they could have put together in the last couple months when they were hurting for tag teams. Yeah, Matt Sydal, Desmond Xavier, like you said. They could do a KM and Congo Kong. They could do EC3 and Rockstar Spud, goddammit. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet.
EC3 and Storm, and don't forget, too, that we are getting Reno Scum back, and they never really got their push.
Nah.
They might be headed in that direction. It's just that I like Reno Scum. I think that they're a little bit different. I enjoy watching them, but I don't see those as the tag team champions either.
Yeah, same for me. Except I don't really like them.
You don't like them?
No, they're cheesy. The whole oi 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 thing is just dumb. Those guys are geeks. Not bad wrestlers, but they're geeks.
They're getting some cheap pops here, And they, of course, they also had some oi 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 pumped into the crowd too, but that's a different story. But then we talk about let's talk about something more exciting. Guys that don't need to have the crowd pumped up. Guys that just come out and perform. Eli Drake and Johnny Impact.
I love how you just completely skipped over the American Top Team stuff.
because it's sort of like Grato's paycheck, only it's like we've seen it last week. It's the same damn thing. What new did they do with the American Top Team? It's like, okay, Bobby, you're with us now. Yeah, it's like fast forward.
Yeah, now Bobby Lashley is supposed to be gone from the company, and we're still following up on it? Why? It doesn't... They're supposed to be gone now. They're not supposed to work for the company anymore, and yet we're still giving them time on the show.
At least give him a week off, so maybe people think he actually left. By putting him on the next week, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not actually.
No, let's not put them on next week. Let's just keep them off the show. This storyline sucks. I'm sorry. It's awful. It's making me care less about Bobby Lashley. That's not the way it should be. This whole American Top thing is dead. Thing is dead in the water.
I think they could have done a lot more with it. The one thing I will say, though, is it's nice to have Bobby Lashley involved in something that doesn't make him the world champion. And unfortunately, far too much over the past year or two, it's been like, oh, let's just put the championship on Bobby. Because Bobby looks like $2 or $3 million. So let's put the championship on Bobby. And it's nice. It would be nice to see him have, a feud with Johnny Impact or anybody, James Storm, cough, that wasn't for the World Heavyweight Championship. And so as much as I got to agree with you on this whole American Top Team thing, it's just too long. It's too drawn out. And they really haven't done anything except show up and look like they're, MMA badasses. It would be nice to see it, I don't know. I think it's probably time to pull the plug too, dude.
Yeah.
So there we talked about America's Top Team, and I thought I was doing you a favor by skipping that and going to Eli Drake.
Eli Drake.
And that's not an insult. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
Great to see Eli Drake going over in this one.
Oh, yeah. It's another one of those overbooked clusterfuck finishes. It's a vintage Jeff Jarrett right there. But, I'm at peace with that. We can't really expect Eli Drake to go over Johnny Impact clean. Because, Johnny Impact, he's their new golden boy. I don't really agree with that. I think they see something in him that I don't really think is there completely. Just the way I feel, I was never really all that high on him to begin with.
So what do you think is missing with Johnny Impact?
Mic skills.
Dang, man, you hit the nail on the freaking head.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. It's always been his problem. Even back when he was in WWE, it was always his problem. He's got a great look. He can certainly wrestle. Super athletic, but the second he opens his mouth, all that star quality just disappears.
Surfer dude is what he comes off like to me.
Yeah, I think he's somewhat better personality-wise as a heel, but as a face, the guy is just bland. I mean, all his promos sound completely scripted, like he's reading off a teleprompter or something. And a lot of people that I've talked to have told me that he got better on the mic since he was in like Lucha Underground or something. I haven't seen it. I mean, he's still Mr. Monotone. The personality doesn't come across. I feel like this is a guy who really wants to be a heel. That Slamtown thing, that sounds corny as hell, would probably come off better if he was a heel trying to be corny intentionally. But yeah, it doesn't... The star quality, the charisma, I'm not seeing it from him. I never saw it from him. Eli Drake's got it. I think it was, I don't know, it was the last week or the week before when they brought Johnny Impact out, and he's saying, I want Eli Drake in a match. I want him out here. I know he's here, and he wasn't there. He was actually in Mexico, and they kind of made him look like a fool. But, he's getting a lot of mic time on that show, and he's just not coming across very well. And meanwhile, then you cut over to Eli Drake, and he's cutting this promo that just oozes star quality. Hey, Johnny Impact, I came to your home turf to defend my title. Where are you? Back in the Impact Zone? Ha ha ha, sucker. Eli Drake just comes off so much better in this type of environment. And I assume this feud is going to continue, and I hope to God it doesn't come down to a promo battle, because if that's the case, Eli Drake is going to completely smoke this guy. Love it or hate it, Johnny Impact is like the top face right now, at least in the short term. He's obviously going to feud for the title because he's the former WWE guy, and he's from AAA, lest we forget that. He is over. He's getting reactions from the Impact Zone crowd. God knows that's hard to do. And he's probably the most recognizable person they have, so I understand it in that sense. I just don't think this is a guy they can roll with at the top long term, because the more spotlight you give him, the more those deficiencies he has in terms of mic skills, those are going to become more and more exposed. But for right now, hey, he did the job for Eli Drake. It wasn't clean, but he did lay down and let Eli Drake pin him. So good for him. Nice to see Eli Drake get a win. He looks dangerous. Yeah, he's bringing Chris Adonis along with him, but Adonis is more like a sidekick at this point. But hey, he looks like a dastardly heel with the beatdown at the end there. I might be going against the grain with Eli Drake a little bit, but hey, they're trying. Yeah, they're doing right by him, or at least they're trying to. But then it gets really weird post-match. What was going on with all that stuff there?
I don't get it.
Yeah, where did Garza Jr. come from?
I don't know. I thought that he was feuding with Braxton Sutter or something.
Yeah, that feud just disappeared. I mean, are him and Johnny Impact friends? Did they become friends backstage? I don't know. This is another thing that should have been set up by the writers, but they just forgot about it. So he makes the save, and then LAX show up for some reason. They're beating everybody up, and then Conan's fighting with a fan at ringside, and then they're beat. Then Eli Drake and Chris Adonis are beating up all the referees, and they're throwing them out of the ring. It's I don't know what the hell's going on, and that's the note that the show ends, and it's like it's just a big WTF moment where you have no idea what anybody is thinking. It's a strange note to end the show on.
It was definitely out there. I'm not really sure what the deal with LAX coming out or Garza Jr. coming out. The rest of it seemed to make some pretty decent sense. I completely agree with you on Johnny Impact and the mic skills. To me, he just sounds like he's got a couple lines that he's rehearsed and he's going to say, and he's just going to say them. And when he says it, he looks like he's saying lines as opposed to he's thinking it, and it's naturally coming out of his mouth, and everything flows naturally out of Eli Drake's mouth. And that's the difference in their promo ability, is the fact that Eli Drake, very natural, knows what he wants to say, goes out, says it, nails it. Johnny Impact's like, all right, I got 3 lines. Okay, I'm going to talk about Slamtown, right? I'm going to say 2 other cheesy things, and we're going to be good. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stand here. I'm going to look pretty. We all know Raven Effect thinks that Johnny Impact is pretty. And I'm going to wear a cheap pair of sunglasses, okay, and some fake fur coat or something like that. And that's what I'm going to be. That having been said, and I know you agree with this, when Johnny Impact comes out for the match, looks like a star coming out. I mean, he has a way to basically say, I'm here and I'm a star. And that star quality is why he's over in the Impact Zone, who, let's face it, they don't listen to his promos anyway. And his in-ring ability is fantastic. The guy's got some cool moves. He does some things that nobody else does. So he still deserves to be at the top of the card. But again, FK9 hit the nail on the head. Is this a guy that you want to run with the company? Is this a guy you want to put the company on his back like maybe you would with Lashley or Eli Drake or EC3? And I just don't think that Johnny Impact is the put the company on the back guy, but he's definitely a cog that will get people to tune in. He's definitely a cog which should be and belongs at the top of the card, and hopefully he sticks around for a while.
Yeah, I wonder if he would probably be better cast as a heel. Maybe if he were the heel and you kind of rejiggered Eli Drake as a trash-talking tweener or anti-hero, this might work better. But for right now, if he's going to be a babyface, then they probably need to tweak this feud a little bit so Eli just does all the talking and Johnny is like the silent but deadly guy. I think the less he talks, the better he's going to come across. We just focus on the stuff he does well and don't draw attention to the fact that he's kind of a cure for insomnia on the microphone. Not to be too harsh against the guy. I don't really have that much of a problem with him, but I've never been interested in his promo ability at all. Maybe a little bit when he was tag teaming with The Miz, but again, he was a heel in that situation, so I think that's probably where he needs to be. As long as he's a babyface, yeah, it's going to be tough.
It's a lot harder to be a babyface than it is to be a heel. It's easy to make people hate you. Yeah. It's real friggin' easy.
Yeah. So that's
why
I was saying, just don't have him talk. Just have him focus on the crowd-pleasing offense, and it might work that way.
Yeah, it might very well work that way. And I'll tell you, if they put him with Taya as heels, they could do a lot with that. And I know they've worked together before in stables, but they could do a lot with those two together.
Yeah,
and I know what they've got, so they've got to do it at some point.
Yeah, I don't watch Lucha Underground, but supposedly they worked really well together over there. So maybe, do something akin to what the kind of gimmick they had in that company. It could work.
And they don't have to. The other nice thing about it is they don't have to break new ground by doing it. They already can look at what transpired on TV with the two of them, and take the best parts, throw out the worst parts, and just introduce it to a new crowd and a new group of people. And by doing that, that gives you longer story arcs as well. So I don't know. He's definitely got a future in Impact Wrestling, and certainly don't want to see him go anywhere. And I sure hope that they don't change the name of the show anytime soon, because then Johnny Impact is just like, why? We've got Ethan Carter III, Johnny Impact, and they're going to call the show something completely different.
He's changed his name more times than this company has.
It's true, but I'm not one to laugh, because FK9, I'm now Impact Dude. I've been GFW Dude. Before that, I was Brother Frickin' Underscore. And before that, I was TNA Dude. I understand where Johnny Impact is going. I got as many names as that guy does. I almost look forward to tweeting to Ed Nordholm You son of a bitch, you change a company name again. Do you have any idea what this is doing to my name? And at the same point in time, I don't actually mind doing it because it just points out the hypocrisy and the idiocy and the lunacy of them saying, this is our new brand. We're going to be there forever. Well, maybe the duration of a low-key contract. And maybe not. Baseball.
Or at least the duration of a Bram contract extension.
Right. I swear, I think that Bram spent more time laying in that freezer in Japan than they were named GFW. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. Oh, boy. Well, honestly, FK9, that's pretty much all we got tonight. Do you got anything else that you want to throw out in closing?
Robbie, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Kick his ass through it as hard as you can. Goodbye. It was nice knowing you. Don't come back. Oh my God! Could you imagine if he showed up at Bound for Glory?
Oh God! Don't give him any ideas.
Oh my God! Oh Lord! All right. Well, look, folks. On behalf of the entire HeelCast and my partner in crime tonight, FK9. It's been an absolute blast doing this show with you, buddy. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. Whoever the hell I am, I guess I'm Impact Dude. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.